Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 21st of April, 2014, and this is episode 75, Easter Bunnies. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. Yesterday was Easter, and we had a pretty low-key Easter because our family is all far away, and we didn't travel to see any of them, so we didn't have family Easter. I did hide Easter eggs around the house for my kids to find, and that was really fun. What we did yesterday was yard work. This is our first time having a house where you have to do mulch, so we've been doing it in stages because we don't know how much mulch we need. It's our first year here, and our vehicle only holds so many bags. So we mulched part of the front, and I also put in flowers in a flower bed. It's kind of in the middle of the lawn. It's circular. It's got a rock retaining wall. It's not too tall, probably a foot. So I was digging in there to put some bulbs because nothing really bloomed there after we moved in June. So I was like, well, if I find anything, maybe by now it should be, shooting up sprouts or something. So I put bulbs in there, and as I was digging, two little tiny bunnies jumped up from the opposite side of the flower patch where I was and scurried away. And I was like, oh my gosh. I guess I'm not going to dig over there because they were little. They were only, I did some research, and apparently at 3 weeks, bunnies are able to be on their own. Like, they can bounce and everything and feed themselves. I would say that these were probably 2.5 weeks because their back legs were not strong enough to launch them straight forward. So I was like, oh no, I hope that their home is okay. But I kept digging on one half of the bed and just basically abandoned the idea of putting anything there immediately, probably in the next couple weeks when they're old enough to go out and destroy crops elsewhere. So I planted some bulbs, and then during the duration of planting, two other little bunnies jumped out, and they were so cute. They were like this big and adorable, and I wanted to pet them, but I didn't. On Thursday, we also had a street Easter egg hunt, which was really fun. All the kids, there's 15 kids under 10. So there were two groups, the really little kids, 5 and under, and then the second group was only 3 kids, which was 6 to 10. It was a lot of fun. The kids had a lot of fun. My kids had a lot of fun playing with their friends. Everybody brought some food. It was really a good time. And it's kind of the first neighborhood thing that I've been to. I mean, the kids go outside and play, and I go out and watch them and discuss with other people, but it was the first time that all the parents were out all at once. So it's nice. The charity knit along is still going on. Any Ravelry sanctioned craft that fits into charity, however you can explain it, sounds good to me. I didn't make anything for the charity knit along this week, but I have plans for something to make next week. So I'm going to show you FOs. I have this hat, which is the circus hat by Crazy Socks Designs. And it's supposed to have a pom-pom, but I am not a pom-pom maker person. And this is from Mara, but it almost fits me. Almost. It goes over my head, so it's got ear flaps with braids and tassels, and it fits her just fine. It's actually a little bit big, which is good, because her other one is too small, so she can grow into this. And she was wearing it, and she liked it, but then she took it off because it's a tad bit warm here today. I made this using Lion brand wool-ease. Sorry, looking for somewhere to put things. In the worsted weight in denim twist, and the sport weight in blueberry twist. So my plan for the charity knit along, and this is worked on US size I, which is 5.5 millimeters, my plan is I have a ball about the size of this yarn. I am going to switch the colors. Not that you can really tell that there's striping, but there is. Can you see that they're striping now? I'm not surprised. I think it'll be more evident in the next hat. I'm going to make this same hat using these yarns again, but switching the main color and the contrast color. And I think I'm going to make the hat on a slightly smaller hook because this is kind of, there's a seam running up the back that you just saw. That's not pretty, but it's up the back, whatever, where you change colors. It's kind of airy. So I think I'm going to make the second one more solid. Next on my pile, oh, well, since I made that hat, that means, of course, that I fixed Mara's sweater. So here's the Shalom, newly without sleeves. So she can wear this now that it's slightly coolish in the mornings. And it doesn't have sleeves, so she can't chew a hole in them. I released a pattern, but I didn't really release a pattern this week because it's for a club, and it's exclusive for the club for a year, I believe. I'm going to look back and check and see, but I'm pretty sure it's for a year. But it was for the Spartacus Dyes 2014 Holiday Club, and I designed a cowl, which I'm going to show you the motifs first. So, there's the cowl, and it is about 8 inches tall and 50 inches around, I think. I don't know, does that look right to you? 50 inches? So it can be worn as one long piece or it can be doubled up. And it is made out of the Spartacus Dyes Will and Grace sock in the Rebirth prototype colorway, because this is the Rebirth prototype. That's what my pattern is called, Rebirth. My holiday was the beginning of spring / Easter. There are 3 motifs, and one motif is actually 3 repeats of a motif, because obviously Easter, 3 days. And this was worked on a US size 4 3.5 millimeter needle, and it will be available for purchase next year. This took up a lot of my knitting time last month. So I did more knitting than I showed, because that's the way that secret projects work. The next project I had just started last week, and I didn't put in a stitch marker because I didn't, but I think I was right below the ribbing, or maybe still in the ribbing. These are baby leg warmers, patterned by Ruth Bendig, and I actually did follow the pattern this time. Almost exactly. I did do one subset of decreases sooner than the pattern called for, mostly because I just wanted a smaller circumference to knit on. But it works fine, and I don't think it'll change the fit too much. I think that this yarn is Plymouth Yarn Company Happy Feet. I don't know what colorway, but I like the pooling. I think that turned out really cool. And this was worked on US size 1 2.25 millimeter needles. The last, oh no, I have 2. I didn't write one down. So second to last finished object is Steel City. The marker is where I was last week, so I did above the marker because it's a bottom up shawl scarfy thing. And here is one side. It's quite long, longer than my wingspan. But it's the perfect scarfy piece. The pattern's by Josh Ricks. The yarn I used is the Grinning Gargoyle Seda Sock in the colorway Storm. And it's a 50-50 merino silk, so it's kind of the perfect spring scarf because it won't be super, super hot. It'll have the breathability, and it's super drapey, which is really nice for this scarf pattern. The last finished object I have is a little bunny fish. So this is my own design because who else would design a bunny fish? It's got the little ears, matches my bunny fish logo. And the reason I made this, it's crocheted out of acrylic worsted weight and has some commercial buttons that come in a huge pack. The reason I made this is because last year when I went to the ZK, I made a stuffed animal for a friend who was in far, far away land and couldn't attend. So I carried around the stuffed animal and took pictures everywhere. And that was a big part of my ZK experience, was having this fish that I took everywhere. This moose that I took everywhere. A mooska, you might remember her if you watched. Well, I was going to make a stuffed animal for a friend who can't go, but then she changed her mind and decided she would make herself. That's fine, but then I didn't have a stuffed animal to take with me to the ZK, and I really enjoyed that, finding fun ways to incorporate the stuffed animal in pictures. So I made this little bunny fish. This bunny fish will travel with me, and then I will give the bunny fish away to someone who watches the podcast. There will be a thread and it'll be a contesty thing, but nothing to worry about for a while. And then I will send it off the podcast after the ZK. I will draw and send off the bunny fish and put together an online album of photos of the bunny fish's travels, and probably send a few goodies along with the bunny fish. That's my plan. I don't know if anybody will be interested, but it'll be fun for me. And if nobody's interested, then the bunny fish will just travel to all the things with me all the time. Works in progress, right? And that's all the finished objects? Okay, that's all the finished objects. I haven't worked on my design socks because I like it, but I'm not sure it's exactly what I want, so I'm letting it marinate for a minute. And while I'm doing that, I started a test knit for Jenna of 716 Knit. So here's the bottom of the foot. And this yarn is Science Monkey Mercantile Faraday sock yarn in Rosalind Franklin's Overexposed Photograph. This is, let's see, it's an Etsy shop, and that's not actually written on here. So it's an Etsy shop. It'll be linked in the show notes. I love this colorway. I really liked it in the hank, and I liked it again in the cake, but I love it knit up. I just think it's completely gorgeous. I also did a bit of work on the Lakeside Socks by Julia Piconson. So here they are. And the stitch marker is where I was last week. So I have almost doubled the size this week. Almost. The stitch marker is telling me, it's counting the number of repeats I have to do before I start the heel turn. So I'm counting from here because I put on the socks and figured out how many repeats I would have to do, so I didn't have to keep measuring. These are knee-high socks, though there's still quite a bit to go before I get to the heel, and I'm nervous that I won't be able to finish the projects that I want to finish by the end of the month because, okay, the design socks are just off the table. Those, I'm sure, are not getting finished by the end of the month, just because I'm not sure where I want to go with them. But this pair of socks, was on the list. My spinning is on the list, and another pair of socks. So probably these socks will get done, but I don't know about the rest of what I want to get done by the end of the month. But wish me luck. This yarn is Premier Serenity Sock in the colorway Navy, and I'm working it on US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needles. I'm kind of bored with the pattern, honestly, because it's a 4-round repeat. I just finished the calf decreases, so that was all the like entertaining parts where I had to really pay attention to what I was doing. So now it's several more repeats of a 4-round repeat. It's just too easy. I guess I will see if I can do it while reading, because it's almost to that point. I just don't know if I can, because there's decreases and yarn overs and stuff. But I guess that isn't any different than the shawl that I made in last month, was it? Month before. Can't remember. I worked on the BFL, but this is still the second, like this is still the first part of the second ply. So I didn't make much progress at all. I think I did 3 color blocks, maybe only 2.5 color blocks. Really need to start working on that. I just haven't been in the spinning mood. I think it's because I've been spending so much time outside that knitting and reading have both kind of suffered, because I've been spending like 4 hours a day outside, working outside, not just sitting outside and enjoying it. Sock yarn blanket. I did 8 squares this week, which brings me up to 555, which is 71.5%. So these are ZK yarns. And then kept them separate so I would remember which were ZK and which were not, because I may have forgotten. This is the yarn from the leggings. This is the leftovers, and I have this much left. So not enough to make a hexapuff. Probably enough to put a few hexapuffs together. This is the Spartacus Dyes Rebirth Prototype yarn. 716 knit, 716 sock in Care Bears with Fangs. And this is another ZK yarn. For hexapuffs, I did 10 this week, which brings me up to 111. I really appreciated that I was at 111 and 555 for my modular projects this week. This is O-Loops in the Barbie Zombinista colorway. It's an 80-20 gold. That's the base. I have 2 in Care Bears with Fangs. So I made this one, which just has a black back because that's how the stripes worked out. And then I have this one, which has no black at all, because these were the leftover pieces from starting off the skein before the toes so that they would match. Because I like to start the toes right at the beginning of the stripe, so it's easy to match up stripes. This is the Spartacus Dyes Spring Rebirth with one of the motifs from the cowl. And then these are all Haley yarns. Some of them have tails so that I can use them to attach others. And some of them don't. This is 2 yarns striped together. More Haley yarn. And here is a Haley yarn with a hair attached, and also a cable running up the front. Just wanted to mix it up, and also it was a celebratory hexapuff. What I am reading, I'm still reading Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. I am 80 pages away from the end. It's pretty good. Definitely steampunk, and it is set in the time period of Solus Probably 10 to 15 years before Alexa, I can't remember, Tarbati's story starts. Characters who you will know are, they talk about Lord Macone, but not as someone's uncle. So Lady Macone, she's a student. His second in command is a professor at the school. There have been a couple others who have been mentioned that I don't remember off of the top of my head, but that was really fun for me because I was like, that name seems very familiar. Oh, Madame LeFou, she's in here. It's really interesting. It's really fun to have that character crossover, but in a totally different way because this is a decade earlier, so they're all, or two or something. I don't remember exactly how old the other characters are because Alexa is not in here. So I don't remember how old the other characters are in that story to give you a really good timeline of when this takes place, other than to say a decade or two. I really enjoy it. There's a lot of adventure. The main character sneaks around and learns a lot of things, and that would get her into trouble with the school if she were actually found out. In a good way, I guess. Like, she's not trying to sabotage the school, she's just really curious. So I've really been enjoying that, and I will probably finish it tonight or tomorrow. I also started reading Cruel by Jennifer Elbin. This is, I would say, a dystopian society where they have, through science, figured out how to manipulate the materials in the world and also time in order to make them weavable. There is a group, when you're 17, you go through this this trial to see if you can weave, and you weave the warp is made of strands of time. So all of the warp is time. And then the weft is made up of whatever the particular spinster is using. So whether food, people themselves make up the weft, there might be a revolution. Because some people are not happy with the way it works, and it's a really interesting read. I didn't know if I was going to like it for about the first 50 pages. I was like, I don't know, but I'm really enjoying it. Not as much as I'm enjoying Etiquette and Espionage, but I think it's because it's dystopian. But it's good. It's really good, and I will be looking for the next books. I'm pretty sure this is the beginning of a series or a trilogy. I know that Etiquette and Espionage is. Last thing today. Since the rabbit went over so well when I showed it, I don't know, a few months ago, I'm going to show you something that I haven't worked on in a really long time, but I want to get back to it because I enjoyed it while I was working on it. So this will be the top for a crazy quilt someday. Fabrics came from a variety of places. Some friends gave me cards of leftovers from like fabric swatches, and some things are from projects that I made. Some things are old clothing, like this right here. This was the front of a hoodie that I got for our high school production, Mount Clemens High School. That's where I went. Production of Harvey in 2002. I wore this hoodie until it fell apart, and then I put it in my blanket, and I stitched on the names of all of the plays and musicals that I did in high school. I don't know, you probably couldn't read any of them, but they're all stitched on here. I have nicknames of friends and my sister. More friends' names, well, nicknames. One of my best friends and I, we called ourselves the trendsetters in high school because it seemed like whatever we did, that was the next thing that happened. Not overnight, but like we would do it, and then like 4 to 6 months later, everybody else would be doing it as we had already moved on. It was kind of funny. Our boyfriends tried to tell us that they were actually the trendsetters, and so it became a big, silly inside joke with all of us. I don't know if you can see that, but another friend's nickname, which was actually just letters, DOTB. That's how we signed things. This is my nickname. It's how I signed all of my art pieces. Not with the symbol, that just happens to be my symbol, but signed everything like that. I made a square for Gabriel. Well, not a square. I made a place for Gabriel with his name and some ribbons from his baby shower, his birth date on it. I haven't made one for Mara, but I want to. This Hello Kitty piece with the tag, these are my favorite pajama pants. This square needs to be washed. Got something spilled on it. It has all of the shows that I worked on in college. And all of this is sewn by hand. It's all hand stitch, back stitching. Which I plan to do for the rest of the quilt top, is to continue just back stitching the entire thing to make this quilt. And it will be done eventually. I have a very long list of things that I want to embroider into it. So it's not that I ran out of ideas, it's just that I started working on other crafty things, and it will get done someday. Or it won't, and it'll just be standing around. I would like it to be the top of a quilt, but possibly it'll just be a wall hanging sort of thing. I don't know. We'll see when I get there. I hope you made something fantastic with your 6 and string, and I will see you next week. Bye.